What if the reason you feel exhausted isn't because you have too many problems? What if it's because you're giving too much importance to things that never deserved your energy in the first place? A stranger's opinion, someone leaving you on read, a mistake you made 3 years ago, a person who doesn't like you, the pressure to look successful, the fear that someone, somewhere might be judging you. We carry all of it, and then we wonder why our minds never feel quiet. One of the most powerful ideas behind Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, is surprisingly simple. You cannot care deeply about everything, and trying to do so will eventually exhaust you. But this idea is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean becoming cold. It doesn't mean ignoring people. It doesn't mean becoming selfish, irresponsible, or emotionally numb. It means becoming selective, because your attention is limited, your emotional energy is limited, your time is limited, and every time you decide that something matters, you are spending a small part of your life on it. So the real question is not, how can I stop caring? The better question is, what is actually worth caring about? Think about how many things compete for your attention every single day. Messages, notifications, other people's achievements, arguments online, expectations from family, pressure from work, your appearance, your income, your mistakes, your future, what people think about you, and what you think they might be thinking about you. Your mind can turn almost anything into an emergency. But most of these things are not emergencies. They are noise. And if you treat every piece of noise as important, eventually you lose the ability to recognize what truly matters. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that you only had 100 units of emotional energy for the entire day. Every argument costs 10. Every hour of comparison costs 15. Every attempt to impress someone costs another 10. Every time you replay an embarrassing moment from the past, you spend 5 more. By lunchtime, you might have almost nothing left. Then, something genuinely important happens. Someone you love needs you. Your work requires concentration. You need patience with your family. You need courage to make an important decision. But your emotional account is already empty. Not because life took everything from you, because you spent too much on things that gave you nothing back. That is why choosing what not to care about is not laziness. It is a form of discipline. You are protecting your attention for the things that deserve it. And this leads to another uncomfortable idea. You cannot build a meaningful life by trying to avoid every problem. There will always be problems. If you want a successful career, you inherit the problems that come with responsibility. If you want a healthy relationship, you inherit difficult conversations, compromise, patience, and vulnerability. If you want to become physically stronger, you inherit discomfort, repetition, and discipline. If you want to build something meaningful, you inherit uncertainty and failure. So perhaps the goal should not be a life without problems. Perhaps the goal should be better problems. Problems you are willing to solve because the result matters to you. That changes the way you think about happiness. Instead of asking, what would make my life easy? Ask, what difficulty would actually be worth enduring? That question can reveal more about you than almost any motivational quote. Because everyone wants the reward. Fewer people want the process required to earn it. Many people want confidence. Few want to repeatedly enter situations where they might fail. Many people want financial freedom. Few want years of patience, learning, restraint, and uncertainty. Many people want a strong relationship. Few want uncomfortable honesty. The things you are willing to struggle for often reveal what you genuinely value. And values matter because they quietly control your decisions. Suppose your deepest value is approval. You want everyone to like you. At first, that sounds harmless. But think about what happens. You begin changing your behavior depending on who is around you. You say yes when you want to say no. You avoid expressing honest opinions. You tolerate disrespect because confrontation might make someone dislike you. You compare yourself constantly. And eventually, you can become surrounded by people while feeling disconnected from yourself. Now, imagine replacing approval with integrity. The question changes. Instead of asking, "Will they like me?" you ask, "Is this honest?" Instead of, "Will this impress people?" you ask, "Does this matter to me?" Instead of, "What if they judge me?" you ask, "Am I acting according to the person I want to become?" The outside world may not change immediately, but your internal world begins to change. You become less dependent on reactions you cannot control. And this is where many people waste enormous amounts of emotional energy. Trying to control other people's opinions, you can explain yourself perfectly and still be misunderstood. You can behave kindly and still be disliked. You can work hard and still be criticized. You can make the best decision available to you, and someone will still think you made the wrong one. That is not necessarily failure. That is simply what happens when different human beings see the world through different experiences. You cannot manage every version of yourself that exists inside other people's minds, and trying to do so is exhausting. There is enormous freedom in accepting this. Not everyone has to understand you. Not everyone has to approve of you. Not everyone has to stay. Your responsibility is not to control every reaction. Your responsibility is to decide whether your actions match your values. Of course, this doesn't mean ignoring useful criticism. Sometimes criticism contains information we need. The point is to learn the difference between feedback and noise. Feedback can help you grow. Noise only makes you perform for an audience that may never be satisfied. And there is another trap that becomes especially powerful today. Comparison. You open your phone and within minutes you can see someone with more money, a better body, a larger house, a happier relationship, a successful business, or a seemingly perfect life. Suddenly, something you were perfectly satisfied with 5 minutes ago feels inadequate. Nothing in your actual life changed. Only the comparison changed. This is why being selective about what you care about also means being selective about what you repeatedly expose your mind to. Attention shapes importance. Whatever you constantly look at begins to feel important. Whatever feels important begins influencing your emotions. And whatever repeatedly influences your emotions can eventually influence your decisions. So protect your attention. Not because the world is dangerous, but because your mind cannot treat everything as equally important without paying a price. There is also a strange paradox here. The harder you try to appear confident, the more concerned you become about whether people think you are confident. The harder you try to prove that you are successful, the more sensitive you become to signs that you might not be. The harder you chase constant happiness, the more you notice every moment when you are unhappy. Sometimes peace begins when you stop demanding that every moment prove something about you. You can have a bad day without believing you have a bad life. You can fail at something without deciding you are a failure. Someone can reject you without your worth decreasing. Someone else can succeed without your success becoming less possible. A mistake can simply be a mistake. Not every experience needs to become an identity. That distinction matters. Because when everything becomes personal, everything becomes heavy. But when you choose carefully what deserves meaning, life becomes lighter. So how do you actually practice this? Start with one simple question. Whenever something is consuming your mind, ask, will this matter to me a year from now? Not everything that bothers you today deserves a permanent place in your mind. Then ask a second question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, decide how much emotional energy you are willing to keep paying for something you cannot change. And finally ask, what do I want to care deeply about? Maybe it is your family, your health, your character, your craft, your faith, your work, your education, your peace, your contribution, your future. The answer will be different for everyone. But you need an answer. Because if you do not consciously decide what matters, the world will decide for you. Advertisements will tell you what to want. Social media will tell you what success looks like. Strangers will tell you how you should live. Comparison will tell you that you are behind. Fear will tell you to stay comfortable. And insecurity will tell you to keep proving yourself. You do not need to become someone who cares about nothing. You need to become someone who knows what deserves their care. That is a very different kind of person. A calmer person. A more focused person. A person who can say no without writing an essay explaining why. A person who can receive criticism without collapsing. A person who can lose something without losing themselves. A person who understands that attention is one of the most valuable things they own. So the next time something steals your peace, don't immediately ask how to make the feeling disappear. Ask whether the thing causing it deserves this much of you. Because perhaps the goal was never to stop caring. Perhaps the goal was to care deeply, about fewer things, and choose those things wisely. If this gave you a different way to think about your attention, your values, or the things you've been carrying, share it with someone who may need to hear it too. And if you enjoy turning powerful ideas from great books into practical lessons you can actually use in everyday life, subscribe to VeraMind. There are many more books to explore, and many more ideas worth understanding.